Okay, welcome, for real. Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to our first MFA program on Zoom, or a program event on Zoom, or it might not be the first. I wasn't here last spring when all of this fell upon us very suddenly. We are here again, apart but together. It's great to see all your faces. Thank you for taking the time out of your last night of your summer break to launch the fall semester with our annual fall faculty reading. It's very odd to have a fall event on during a heat wave, but then again, falls are just odd in general in the Bay Area, as you know, or if you've just moved here, as you'll soon find out. It's not quite a hayride and harvest pumpkin picking season. So without further ado, the name of our first reader tonight should not be new to any of you. Buzbee has been teaching workshops and seminars in both fiction and nonfiction at USF for more than 20 years. You might know him from Blurred Boundaries, his class on modern works that cross over or combine literary genres, or his new seminar you might be enrolled in this fall, which is Worlds on Fire, Novels and Society, on how novelists respond to the urgency of their chaotic worlds. Lewis has taught many classes in the MFA program over the years, and he's published many books, including the novels Bridge of Time and The Haunting of Charles Dickens, which won the Northern California Book Award. Steinbeck's Ghost, another novel, was a Smithsonian notable book. His nonfiction books include Blackboard, A Personal History of the Classroom, and The Yellow Lighted Bookshop, which is both out from with Grey Wolf Press. Lewis holds an MFA from Warren Wilson College and lives here in San Francisco. In addition to his Novels and Society seminar, he's teaching a nonfiction workshop this fall. And as you know, Zoom doesn't let us all applaud together, so please silently, visually help me welcome to what's passing these days as a stage, Lewis Buzbee.
Hello, everyone. Now I'm unmuted. Hello, and thanks for coming today. I'm really looking forward to getting this semester started. It's always better when we're working. When Shelter in Place first began, I'd recently finished a new project and was wondering what might come next, but I didn't write a word for 2 months. Then one night, out of nowhere, a sentence popped into my head. I could not find him, and I began writing a novel that is unusual for me in many respects. It is a more autobiographical novel than I've ever written. It's a novel about my father, who died when I was 12 in 1970. The novel is autobiographical in the sense that its characters and actions arise from my father's life, or more precisely from my memory of my father's life. Yet it remains, I trust, resolutely a novel. And I'm writing it as a mosaic rather than a single narrative. There are at least 4 different rhetorics so far. Third-person narration of my father's early life, direct addresses to my father, single moments of memory, and essay-like chapters that stretch over time. I'm not yet sure how these shards will connect, what portrait they'll draw, one piece at a time. Tonight, I want to share one of the shards from this novel, a memory piece. A few things about my father's life. I'm gonna do some arranging here. A few things about my father's life to give you some deeper context for him. As this picture will show you, he was the son of a Dust Bowl sharecropper, and you're looking at that picture of him there in Oklahoma, and he had left school by 7th grade. He was then career Navy, enlisting in 1942. And I'm going to screen share. And he spent most of his life there as a deep sea diver. Oh, it's the wrong picture. This is too cool of a picture. I have to do it again. Sorry. There you go. So that's him as a deep sea diver. And after he retired, he then became a commercial welder, which is very common for divers to do once they retire. This shard takes place in San Jose, California in the summer of 1969. I'm going to go old school tonight, really old time radio. I'm going to shut off my video feed so that you won't see me, but the words will be where I most want them to be, out in the air, somewhere between the page and the reader. This is called astronomy. Every year from late July through late August, the Perseid meteor shower is visible across the northern hemisphere. At this point in its orbit around the sun, the Earth passes through a cloud of debris left behind by the comet Swift-Tuttle. The comet itself, however, only visits our solar system every 133 years. Out of this long, still wake, meteors, mostly chunks of dust and ice, enter Earth's atmosphere, and the friction of that transit causes the meteors to burn brightly before disintegrating. The meteors may have been waiting for centuries in the dark, waiting for that single moment of combustion which allows us to see them. The Perseid meteor shower reaches its peak of frequency on August 12th. Beginning when I was 9, my father and I would walk the few blocks to Cherry Park for midnight viewings of the Perseids. Only a few years before, Cherry Park had been a real cherry orchard, but was transformed into a vast L-shaped lawn bordered by walnut trees and a small playground and streets of identical houses. We took blankets and lawn chairs, a thermos of coffee and a thermos of hot chocolate. It was rare enough in San Jose, even in August, that midnight wasn't a cooling hour. We talked about the stars. My father graduated 7th grade. This was in Oregon, a farm that they'd owned for 7 years. And one morning, his father skipped out on the family for the last time, and my father and his brother had to work alongside their mother, so school was no longer possible. But whether he was naturally inclined or encouraged by his Navy training, my father loved all the sciences, from the mechanical to the atomic. A diver must be able to do complex math if he's going to surface alive. And a welder must understand the molecular structure of metals. It hardly matters where or how his interests were kindled, because what mattered to me and to him, I suppose, is that we both wanted to explore how the world really worked. As a family, we went to church every Sunday, United Church of Christ, Dr. Foster presiding, but it was all for my mother's sake. My father and I were only concerned with what could be proven. My father had seen too much of the world to believe otherwise. I hadn't seen enough. Though I always knew our family didn't have a lot of what my mother called spending money, my father kept finding ways to feed my growing interest in the sciences. In 2nd grade, my first chemistry set, a flimsy metallic cabinet of vials and test tubes, plastic microscope with slides. We mixed and combusted chemicals, stared deep into pond water or ocean or blood. Then the science library. Every month, a saddle-stitched volume arrived in the mail. Fishes of the Pacific, cephalopods, 2 volumes, cactus, geodes, volcanoes, and separate volumes for the sun and the moon and each planet and the asteroids. 6 volumes fit into a slipcase box with a ribbon pull, and the boxes filled and stacked up. I read each volume cover to cover. My first telescope, a 3-inch reflector on a wobbly stand, perfectly fine for moon viewing, but when he registered my passion for astronomy, my father managed somehow to buy a 6-inch reflector on a weighted walking stand complete with various lenses, including a moon filter and a sun filter. Every summer night, and once a 90% solar eclipse in Aunt Mimi's backyard. I owned a planetarium too, 6 plastic sections of dome we screwed together in the puny, disappointing projector, cheap but magnificent. Then he bought me a better microscope off of a buddy from work. It came in a wooden cabinet and was steel and black and heavy, and it showed us the tiniest views of life. With this, my father had included a highly polished demonstration weld he'd made himself, 2 inches across and cased in black plastic. Under the microscope, it was nearly impossible to find the seam that united the two. Aquariums, zoos, botanical gardens, planetariums, riverbanks, under rocks, in the sky, on TV, every dawn rocket launch, this first moon landing. Everywhere was someplace worth exploring. The summer I was turning 12, we went to Cherry Park again on August 12th, our tradition now. No one else was out that night. Everything was quiet. We set our lawn chairs northwest, ratcheted them back as far as we could. We located Cassiopeia and drew a line south from her throne to find Perseus, who held the Gorgon's head in one hand, sword in the other. Soon, the first meteor pulled a thread of light out of Perseus and skated toward the horizon. I could almost hear the sound it made. It must have made a sound, burning up as it did. Then another meteor and another. Some meteors shone for 2 or 3 seconds, ice on fire. That year I had an ambitious plan. I brought along a clipboard and sheets of binder paper I had carefully ruled in columns. Time, Greenwich Mean Time, to the nearest second. The duration of the meteor. Brightness on a scale of 5. Color based on the astronomical scale. Oh, and a space for a name. I would give each meteor a name. I'm concerned that what I named no longer existed by the time I named it. We sat in our lawn chairs and sipped from our thermoses and called out each sighting. I tried to fill in every column on the binder paper, but soon gave up on naming the meteors, then soon gave up on everything else. There were too many, sometimes 3 or 4 a minute, sometimes 2 or 3 at once. I was trying to write the impossible. I grew frustrated. Don't worry about that, my father said. Let's enjoy. Make a mark for each one. My father called out each meteor we saw, and I tallied them with hash marks. Soon, after more than 60 counted, I stopped that too. We settled into watching all those bright moments come and gone, and all of them without names. Thank you. Oh, look, little clapping. It's nice. Thanks for the clapping. I like that. Yeah.